Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're going to do our sound installation, sound and DCC installation on the Visitor from the East, this Kato SD40-2. You can see that I've already done the hardwiring job on this Kato. All we need to do is replace the printed factory circuit board with the Tsunami2 Soundtrax decoder that we've got. We've got a speaker for it, and we've got LEDs for the headlights and heat shrink, and we're going to do aftermarket fiber optic cable to get that light out to the headlight housings. So the first thing that we're going to do here is get rid of that printed factory circuit board, and we're just going to cut the tape here, and we'll also probably cut these wires back quite a ways. So it's important to read and understand the where the pads are on this printed circuit board. Soundtrax gives you the documentation in the card that you get with the decoder. So you can see here that I've got the Soundtrax decoder mounted to the Kato locomotive. The front is noted by an F0F printed on near the front of the board. So that's the F0, of course, the headlight for the front. I'm tinning all of the pads here now that I'm going to end up soldering to for this project. Right now I'm doing the headlight board, or the headlight pads, and then here I'm doing the track pickup pads. Those are both exist on the front and the rear of the decoder. And I'll also tin the ends of each one of the wires that I'm going to solder here. Tinning has the benefit of getting the joint ready to make. All you have to do practically is touch the soldering iron to that area that you want to solder together to melt the solder and then form the joint. Here I'm using a needle nose plier to hold the wire in place while I'm going to solder. That's a good way to both hold the item and not burn your fingers. I'll often use a needle nose plier or duckbill's plier with a rubber band wrapped around it for a little miniature vise when I'm soldering wire out on the bench. So I just spent a bunch of time farting around with different combinations of LEDs and prototyping, making sure everything would work here. I'm down to the point of soldering in the hot lead here on this 3mm LED. This particular one, I don't remember whether this came off of eBay or Amazon, but it came with the dropping resistors, and I'm using the dropping resistor. I think they're 1K or something like that. And the yellow wire I'm wiring to the rear headlight, and then I'm going to take a piece of small heat shrink tubing here and cut it and fit over that yellow wire. Bend that LED leg straight there. 1K quarter watt resistor is what you'll need if you don't have that on hand for use with these little LEDs. You just need a tiny little bit of solder to make these things work here, you guys. And I'll remember actually to put a piece of heat shrink in there before I solder that LED onto that common lead, because otherwise if I make that joint I won't be able to get my heat shrink tubing on there. And I'll grab these things with that duckbill pliers again, and you'll see this heat shrink right up to that joint and make a nice, clean, good looking and electrically insulated joint there. I'm going to cut this wire down a little bit and then grab it with the duckbills again, bend it over so you guys can see me tin the wire. So again, I'm using 3mm LEDs here, and if you have to supply your own resistors, you want 1K resistors at a quarter watt. So if you got to go to DigiKey or your local Radio Shack, So now we move on to fiber optics. These are 1.5mm fiber optic tubes that I bought off of eBay. And we're going to use these with heat shrink to mate these up to the 3mm LEDs and pipe these out. It turns out these fit perfectly in the Kato headlight housing. So what we'll do, obviously these are a little bit long, and we'll route these the same way that the Kato light bar would be routed, in through the weight inside the Kato SD40-2, and kind of the same principle for any other locomotive, pretty much. You don't want to really bend these at a right angle, but we don't have to in this case. And then what we're going to do is, you can see that these are plenty long, of course. I mentioned that, and we were going to just go ahead and cut these off with a side cut plier when it comes time to do the finish work on the locomotive. So I have here 3/16 black heat shrink tubing. I'm going to install this over the top of this rear LED, and I'm going to put in the two short. Actually, we're just going to go ahead and shrink that down over the LED. Pretty amazing, isn't that? So you can kind of feel where the pieces of fiber optic meet that LED here down on the end. I'm going to shrink that down around. So we've got that's ready to stick in those headlight housings. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to cut those to length when we finish the model. Same thing on the front here. We will cut a piece of heat shrink for that as well. And again, we're planning to route these the same as the Kato light bar would be routed if we are going to use that part again, and obviously we're not. So I can't really remember what all has gone on since I made a clip last, and I want to fill you guys in on what happened here. I ended up gluing in these 603 or they 1206, I'm not sure, surface mount red LEDs to the nose here behind the marker lights. I gave up trying to do that with fiber optic. We did go ahead and use the fiber optic. I strung that, and these fit perfectly. This is 1.5 millimeter fiber optic cable. Then I'm going to cut that short once I get the engine shell all put together and decaled and ready to fit together one last time. These are pre-wired surface mount LEDs, I should have mentioned. The red wire is positive, so you got to pay attention to that when you attach that back to the common lead. And then I use the green wire off of F3 here to power the black wire for those marker lights. With the headlights, both the front and the rear, I'm using 3/16 heat shrink here over a 3 millimeter LED with that fiber optic tucked right up next to the LED inside of that heat shrink. And that will be a good deal to conduct the light out to those headlight housings. Again, we'll cut those short, or we'll trim those to the right back to the headlight housings when we get this model on final assembly. I did connect the Soundtrax Sugar Cube speaker here to the S Plus and the S Minus pads on the decoder. That works fine. We will go out to the layout and show you, let you listen to this. So I guess that brings us to the point where it's time to pull the pin for this particular episode. Next up will be decaling the shell, and then maybe getting some weathering on and some other things. Then we'll move on to final assembly and all that type of thing. Hope you liked the content here. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe for more. And as always, hope to see you in the next one.